The morning sun was warm and bright, spreading soft light across the white stones of Arlington National Cemetery. Visitors walked quietly among the endless rows of graves, their voices low, their steps careful. Among them was a small boy named Liam, sitting in a wheelchair beside his parents. He was only 10 years old but carried an air of maturity far beyond his age. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his curious eyes kept searching every corner of the grand memorial. Liam had been born with a serious problem in his legs. The doctors had told his parents that he might never walk properly. Since birth, he had spent his life in and out of hospitals, surrounded by machines and doctors instead of playgrounds and running fields. But Liam was not a sad child. He loved to smile, and he loved listening to his father's stories about soldiers, honor and bravery. His father, a retired Army sergeant, believed that courage was not about fighting battles but about never giving up. Every night before bed he told Liam about the men and women who had served their country, and especially about a place called the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Liam had listened carefully, fascinated by the idea that someone could stand guard day and night, in every season, never leaving their post, even during storms or heat. That morning his parents had brought him to see it for the first time. His mother pushed the wheelchair slowly through the walkway, and his father walked beside them, explaining the history of the place. Liam could see the large white marble structure ahead, glowing under the sun. A small crowd had gathered in silence as a guard in a pressed uniform marched back and forth with precise movements, rifle in hand. Everything about the guard seemed perfect. His steps, his turns, the sound of his heels clicking sharply against the ground. He moved like a living clock, calm, focused, and proud. The crowd watched in complete silence, not wanting to disturb the sacred peace of the place. Liam's eyes were wide. He had never seen anything like it before. Every step the guard took was so exact, so strong that it echoed deep inside him. His mother bent down beside him and whispered, "They never stop, not even for a second." Liam nodded slowly. "Not even in the rain?" he asked softly. "Not even then," his father replied. "They stand guard every day, every hour. It's their way to honor those who can no longer walk among us." Liam's fingers gripped the armrest of his wheelchair. The idea of someone walking for hours, without stopping, without resting, felt almost like magic to him. For most people, walking was easy, something they didn't even think about. But for him, it was a dream that sometimes felt too far away. He looked down at his legs, covered by a blanket, and whispered, "One day, I'll stand tall like them." His mother's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled and brushed his hair gently. His father placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice steady and warm. "You already have their heart, son. The rest will come with time." They stayed there for a long while, watching the guard change with another. The precision of the ceremony was beautiful. The sound of the rifle, the firm salute, the silent exchange of duty. Every detail spoke of respect. Liam watched carefully, memorizing every movement. When the ceremony ended and the guard resumed his steady march, Liam asked question after question. How long did they train? How did they stay so still? Did they ever make mistakes? His father answered each one patiently, telling him about the old guard, the soldiers who took an oath to protect the tomb, no matter what. As the family walked away from the tomb area, Liam kept turning his head to look back. Something inside him had changed that day. He didn't know it, but a seed had been planted, a quiet promise deep in his heart. That evening, as they returned to their hotel, Liam couldn't stop talking about what he had seen. He moved his hands, trying to copy the guard's perfect turns. His mother laughed softly, saying, "Careful, soldier, you might knock over the lamp." But Liam only smiled. "I want to walk like them someday," he said seriously. "Not fast, just straight and strong." His father looked at him with pride. "Then that's what you'll do," he said. "But remember, a guard's strength is not in his legs, it's in his will." That night, when everyone was asleep, Liam stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. He imagined himself in that silent place, standing tall in uniform, the wind brushing past his face. In his dream, he wasn't sitting anymore, and he was walking. Step by step, firm and proud. The sound of his footsteps echoed in his mind like music. The next morning, as they prepared to leave, Liam asked his parents for a favor. "Can we go back there before we go home?" he asked hopefully. His parents exchanged a quick glance. His father nodded. Of course, when they returned, the crowd was smaller. The morning air was cool, and the guard's uniform looked sharp against the rising sun. Liam watched quietly, his heart beating faster. For the first time, he tried to push himself up from his chair. His mother quickly placed her hand on his arm. Afraid he might fall, but he shook his head. "Just for a second," he said. With effort, he lifted himself halfway, his weak legs trembling under his weight. He stood unsteady for only a few moments, but to him it felt like forever. His father stood beside him, holding him gently by the elbow. Liam looked ahead at the guard and whispered, "See? I'm standing too." The guard didn't see him, of course, but that didn't matter. In Liam's heart, it felt like they were standing together. Two soldiers, one in uniform and one in hope. When he sat down again, his mother wiped her eyes. "You did it," she said softly. "It's just a start," Liam replied with a shy smile. "I'll walk next time." On the drive home, Liam stared out the window, lost in thought. The passing trees and open fields blurred together, but his mind was focused on one image: the soldiers' steady steps. He wanted to move like that. He wanted to live like that, with purpose, patience, and pride. Over the next few weeks, something in him shifted. During therapy sessions, he tried harder. He didn't complain when his legs ached. Every fall, every slip, every painful stretch reminded him of the guards who never stopped walking. He started to count his steps, no matter how small. 1, 2, 3, each one a victory. His parents noticed the change. His therapist did too. The boy who once struggled to take a single step was now trying to walk a few more each day. His father hung a photo of the tomb of the unknown soldier on his bedroom wall. Beneath it, he wrote 3 words in black marker: "Keep walking, soldier." Sometimes, late at night, when his legs hurt too much to sleep, Liam would stare at that photo. It gave him comfort, not because of the guard's perfect steps, but because he knew that somewhere out there someone was standing watch. Someone was walking, keeping a promise, and that gave him strength to keep his own. That visit to Arlington became more than a family trip. It became a turning point. From that day forward, every therapy session, every fall, every drop of sweat carried the memory of that soldier's footsteps. Liam didn't know it yet, but his promise, "One day I'll stand tall like them," would one day come true in a way no one could ever expect. Days turned into weeks after the trip to Arlington. The memory of that silent soldier standing tall in front of the tomb stayed with Liam like a light in his heart. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see the guard marching with pride, his steps strong and steady. That picture gave Liam something new, a dream. At the therapy center, his physical therapist, Ms. Harper, noticed the change first. Liam used to get tired quickly, sometimes even frustrated. But now he came in with a spark in his eyes, ready to try harder than before. "You seem different, Liam," she said with a kind smile one morning. "Did something special happen?" Liam smiled shyly. "I saw someone walk without stopping," he said. "And I want to walk like that." Ms. Harper nodded gently. "Then let's take it one step at a time." Every day after school, Liam worked hard in the therapy room. He practiced standing between parallel bars, gripping them tightly as he tried to balance his body. The metal braces on his legs squeaked softly, and sometimes his knees shook, but he didn't give up. His therapist counted the seconds aloud, 1, 2, 3, and every extra second he could stand was a victory. At home, his parents noticed the same determination. His mother would find him trying to move from his bed to the chair without help. His father watched silently from the doorway, his heart swelling with pride. "He's got the spirit of a soldier," he whispered to his wife one evening. "He just doesn't wear the uniform yet." There were hard days too. Some mornings the pain in Liam's legs was so sharp that he could barely stand. The muscles ached from constant exercise, and sometimes his braces left marks on his skin. He cried quietly at night, not wanting his parents to hear. But even in those moments, he remembered the guard's steady walk. He would whisper to himself, "They never stop walking, so I won't stop either." The months passed slowly. Every inch of progress was earned through effort and patience. He learned to move from one side of the room to another with crutches. The first time he did it, everyone in the therapy room clapped for him. Liam smiled, though his arms trembled from holding his weight. "One day," he said softly, "I won't need these anymore." Ms. Harper placed her hand on his shoulder. "That day will come," she said. "But even if it doesn't, you've already learned the hardest part, not to quit." School was another challenge. Liam was the only student who used braces and crutches. Some kids didn't understand and sometimes stared or whispered, but he didn't mind. He focused on his goal. His father had told him once, "Courage isn't about being the strongest. It's about standing tall when you want to fall." Every night after dinner, Liam's father helped him stretch and practice small exercises. Up, down, hold, and breathe, his father would say. It became their quiet routine. Sometimes they didn't even talk, they just worked together, the sound of effort filling the small living room. One evening, when Liam finally managed to take 3 steps without help, his mother covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. "You did it," she whispered. Liam grinned, his cheeks red, his legs shaking. "Just 3, he said breathlessly. His father shook his head proudly. "No, son. That was your first march." That night they celebrated with his favorite dinner, spaghetti and ice cream. It wasn't about food. It was about a family that had just witnessed hope turning into action. Weeks became months, and months slowly became years. Liam's progress was slow but steady. He learned how to fall safely and how to stand back up. Every time he hit the floor, he laughed instead of crying. His mother often said, "You fall like a champion now." Sometimes, when he got tired, he would look at the framed picture of the tomb of the unknown soldier that hung above his study desk. The simple white tomb under the open sky reminded him why he was trying so hard. "If they can march forever," he whispered, "I can take one more step." As Liam entered his teenage years, his confidence grew along with his strength. The braces were still there, but his steps were firmer. His therapist started introducing balance exercises and short walks on his own. "This is where you learn to trust yourself," she said as he walked slowly across the room without support. Each step wobbled, but he stayed upright. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for Liam, real was more than enough. At school, things began to change too. One day, during a physical education class, he surprised everyone. The teacher had set up a short walking challenge for students to see how far they could go without stopping. Liam asked to try. The teacher hesitated, worried he might hurt himself, but his determined face left no room for doubt. He took his first step, then another. The sound of his braces clicking echoed in the gym. The room went silent. One by one, his classmates stopped what they were doing and watched him move forward, slow but steady. When he reached the end of the line, the whole class clapped. Liam smiled shyly, his breath heavy but his heart light. "I told you," he said softly. "I'm practicing to walk like a guard." From that day, his classmates started treating him differently. They began to cheer him on, helping him carry books and walking beside him between classes. Liam had unknowingly become a small symbol of courage in his school. At home, the atmosphere was always filled with quiet hope. His mother often read him stories about soldiers who overcame fear, while his father reminded him that strength wasn't always about muscles. Sometimes it was about heart. When winter came, Liam faced a tough time. The cold made his joints stiff, and every movement was painful. There were days he wanted to stay in bed, but every morning he forced himself up. "Soldiers don't skip their duty," he told himself as he put on his braces. He began keeping a journal, writing about every little milestone, how long he stood, how many steps he took, how often he fell and got back up. On the last page he wrote in large letters, "Every step is one closer to Arlington." His parents saw it one night and didn't say anything, but they knew what it meant. He wanted to return there, not as a boy in a wheelchair, but as a young man who could walk. By the time Liam turned 15, he could walk short distances without crutches, though he still needed the braces. His balance had improved and his steps were more confident. He had grown taller, his face more mature, but his dream remained the same. One evening, after a long day of practice, his father sat beside him on the porch. The air was cool and the sun was setting in soft shades of orange. "You know," his father said quietly, "the first time you saw that guard, you made a promise." Liam looked down at his legs, then up at the fading sky. "I remember," he said. "I told Mom I'd stand tall like them someday." His father smiled. "You've already done that, son. But maybe it's time we take you back there so you can see how far you've come." Liam's heart skipped a beat. He didn't say anything at first. He just nodded, a small smile forming on his face. "Yes," he whispered. "I'd like that." From that day forward, his training took on a new fire. Every session felt like preparation for something bigger, a silent mission to prove to himself that his promise was real. The dream that started years ago in front of the tomb of the unknown soldier was about to come full circle. He didn't know what would happen when he returned. He didn't expect attention or applause. All he wanted was to take a few steps, to stand in that sacred place, and to honor the guards who had unknowingly taught him the true meaning of strength. And deep inside, he hoped that somewhere, the same guard he had once watched in silence would still be there, walking, steady as ever, just as he remembered. The morning sun rose gently over Arlington National Cemetery, just like it had years before. The long lines of white gravestones stood quietly in the soft light, each one carrying a story of honor and sacrifice. The air was cool, clean, and still. It had been many years since Liam's first visit here, and now he was back. But this time everything was different. He was no longer the small boy in a wheelchair. He was 16 now, taller, stronger, and braver. His legs still carried braces, but he could stand and walk on his own. The journey had been long and painful, but today was the day he had dreamed about for years. His parents stood beside him, watching proudly as he looked around the familiar place. His father carried a small bag with his water bottle and extra support braces, just in case he got tired. His mother held a camera, though she knew this moment wasn't really about pictures. It was about something far deeper, a promise finally being fulfilled. As they walked through the paths of the cemetery, the sound of gravel underfoot mixed with the gentle rustle of the trees. Liam's braces clicked softly with every step. He felt the weight of each one, but also the power behind it. His legs trembled slightly, yet his heart was steady. Finally, they reached the open area before the tomb of the unknown soldier. The sight was as breathtaking as he remembered. The large white marble tomb shone under the morning light, its words carved in silence. Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God. Liam stopped and took a deep breath. His eyes grew moist as memories rushed back. His first visit, his whispered promise, the sound of the guard's steady footsteps. The crowd was quiet, just like before. Everyone stood in respect as the tomb guard marched across the mat, back and forth, his movements precise and perfect. The guard's steps echoed across the open space, sharp and measured, like the heartbeat of the place. Liam couldn't take his eyes off him. Every turn, every salute, every click of the rifle felt like a reminder of what he had worked so hard for. He turned slightly to his parents and said softly, "This is where it all started." His father nodded. "Yes, son. And now this is where it continues." They found a spot near the railing where Liam could see clearly. For a few minutes, they stood there in silence. The crowd watched the ceremony as the changing of the guard began, a tradition older than Liam himself. Two soldiers met at the center, their movements perfectly mirrored, every gesture filled with meaning. The crowd barely breathed, Liam's eyes filled with emotion. He remembered being that little boy in the wheelchair whispering his dream. Now he was standing, not perfectly, not easily, but proudly. He looked down at his legs and smiled faintly. "I made it," he whispered to himself. His mother touched his arm gently. "Do you want to sit down for a while?" she asked softly, seeing the strain on his face. Liam shook his head. "No," he said. "I want to stand." She smiled, tears forming in her eyes, and let him be. When the ceremony ended, the new guard began his steady march again. The sound of his footsteps echoed in perfect rhythm. The world around seemed to fade, the tourists, the murmurs, even the wind. Liam's focus narrowed to the man before him. He felt something powerful stir inside him. Without a word, Liam let go of the railing. His father noticed and reached out instinctively, but Liam raised his hand slightly, signaling that he wanted to try. Slowly, carefully, he took a small step forward. His braces clicked softly and his right leg trembled. He took another step, then another. The sound of the crowd faded into complete silence. People turned to watch. Liam's eyes stayed fixed on the guard. Every step he took felt like a mountain climbed. His heart pounded, not from fear but from pride. His father stayed close just in case, but didn't touch him. He knew this was a moment his son needed to face alone. As Liam reached the center path, his knees began to shake. The weight of the braces pressed heavily against his legs, and for a moment he felt he might fall. But then he remembered the voice of his father. "The guards never stop walking, son. Neither will you," He took a deep breath and pushed forward. The clicking of his braces mixed with the measured footsteps of the soldier. Two rhythms, one of duty and one of determination. The tomb guard noticed the movement in his peripheral vision. For a brief second, his head turned slightly, his eyes catching the sight of the young man struggling forward. He recognized the expression, not of pain, but of courage. Liam stopped just a few feet from the rope barrier. His chest rose and fell quickly as he tried to catch his breath. His legs felt like fire, but he didn't care. He was standing on his own 2 feet in front of the tomb, just as he had dreamed. His mother covered her mouth, tears rolling down her cheeks. His father's eyes glistened, but he stood tall beside her, a quiet salute in his heart. The crowd remained completely silent. Every person there seemed to understand that they were witnessing something special, something beyond words. Liam looked up at the guard, who had stopped mid-step now, breaking the perfect rhythm for the first time. Their eyes met. For a long, silent moment, they just looked at each other, one soldier on duty, the other on a personal mission of courage. The guard's jaw tightened slightly. His rifle rested against his shoulder as he studied the boy who had fought so hard to stand there. Liam gave a small, respectful nod as if to say, "Thank you for walking when I couldn't." Then he whispered softly, just loud enough for his parents to hear, "I did it." The guard blinked slowly. His expression remained professional, but there was something different in his eyes, a spark of deep respect. Liam's legs trembled again, and his father quickly stepped forward to steady him. The crowd exhaled, some wiping tears from their faces, but Liam was still smiling, his heart full and steady. He turned his head one last time toward the tomb, whispering quietly, "Thank you." For him, that moment wasn't about attention or applause. It was about keeping a promise made by a little boy who once believed he could stand tall like the guards he admired. As they began to leave, Liam took one last look back. The guard had resumed his march, his steps firm and proud. But for Liam, the world had changed. He wasn't watching anymore. He had become part of that rhythm. On their way down the path, tourists approached quietly, speaking words of encouragement. Some said they had never seen anything more inspiring. Liam just smiled politely. He didn't see himself as special. He saw himself as lucky to have been taught by the quiet strength of those who never stopped walking. In the car, as they drove away, Liam looked out the window at the fading white stones. His legs ached terribly, but his heart felt light. He had done what he came to do. He had stood on his own 2 feet in front of the tomb of the unknown soldier. His father looked at him through the rearview mirror and said softly, "You did good, son." Liam smiled, leaning his head back against the seat. "I just walked," he said quietly. The guard did the hard part. His mother reached over and squeezed his hand. "You both did something beautiful," she whispered. Outside, the world passed by. The trees, the sky, the quiet roads. But inside that car, something had changed forever. Liam had proven that strength wasn't about perfection. It was about persistence, and deep in his heart he knew this was only the beginning. The air around the tomb of the unknown soldier was crisp, carrying the quiet weight of history and honor. Liam had already taken his first steps on this sacred ground, and the feeling of standing tall filled him with pride he could hardly describe. His legs trembled slightly from the effort, but he held himself upright, breathing slowly and deliberately. Every inch of forward movement had been a victory, and every click of his braces against the marble pathway seemed like a heartbeat, echoing in his chest. The crowd around him had grown quiet, as though sensing the importance of the moment. Tourists paused, whispers died down, and the gentle rustle of the trees became the only background sound. Liam's parents stood beside him, their hands lightly touching his arms, ready to support him but allowing him the independence he had worked so hard for. The tomb guard, an experienced soldier of the old guard, noticed Liam as he continued his slow, determined steps. Soldiers are trained to focus on their duty above all else, to never break protocol no matter what they see. Yet something in Liam's determined eyes made the guard pause. He had seen countless visitors approach the tomb, some with cameras, some with flowers, some with tears. But he had never seen anyone move forward with such a mixture of struggle and triumph. Liam's braces clicked with each step, uneven, yet determined. His chest rose and fell rapidly, but his face was calm and serious. His gaze was locked on the marble tomb ahead. With every inch he moved, the crowd's silence grew heavier, more reverent. The guard took notice, adjusting his posture slightly, his eyes softening behind the mask of discipline. For Liam, time seemed to stretch. Each step felt like hours, and yet every second was precious. He remembered all the early mornings, all the falls, all the tears. He remembered his father's words, "The guards never stop walking, son. Neither will you." Those words echoed in his mind like a drum, guiding him forward. As Liam approached the center of the pathway, he stumbled slightly. His knees buckled, threatening to give way beneath him. He froze for a moment, fearing he might fall completely, but then a gentle hand rested briefly on his back, his father's reassuring touch. "You've got this, son. Keep going," his father whispered. Liam drew a deep breath and pushed forward. Step by step, inch by inch, he advanced toward the center of the tomb. The guard continued his march, but could no longer ignore the sight of the boy making such an effort to stand tall in this sacred place. Something stirred inside the soldier, a recognition of courage that went beyond training, beyond protocol. At that moment, instinct overtook training. For the first time, the tomb guard did something that had never been done before in his years of service. He stopped marching, breaking the rigid rhythm that had defined his life for years. His rifle remained secure, his posture steady, but his eyes softened as he stepped slightly aside. The guard, bound by decades of discipline, made space for the young boy. Liam looked up, startled, but then comprehension washed over him. The soldier was giving him a path, a quiet acknowledgement of his courage. Trembling with effort, Liam took another step, his braces squeaking under the strain. Each movement was difficult, but he was determined to reach the center without assistance. The crowd watched in stunned silence. People held their breath, some covering their mouths with their hands, realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary. Here was a boy who had fought so long to walk finally moving forward, and here was a soldier willing to bend the rules, not carelessly, but in recognition of pure human bravery. Liam's heart pounded as he neared the center. His knees shook, his legs screamed in protest, but he ignored the pain. He could see the guard clearly now, standing silently, his eyes locked on the boy. There was no judgment in them, only respect. Liam felt a swell of emotion in his chest, pride, relief, and gratitude all at once. Finally, he reached the central area, just a few feet from the marble tomb. His legs trembled violently, threatening to collapse beneath him, but he planted them firmly and breathed deeply. He had done it. He was standing independently, at the place where heroes were honored. The realization made his chest feel heavy and light all at once. The guard lowered his rifle slightly, a gesture that was subtle yet monumental. Then for the first time he spoke. Just a few quiet words, spoken in a tone full of meaning. "You've earned your place here." Liam's eyes widened. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. A tomb guard, someone bound by centuries of unbroken tradition, had broken protocol to recognize his courage. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. He wanted to speak, but no words came. Instead, he gave the guard a small, respectful nod. The guard returned the nod, then resumed his march, his steps firm and precise once more. The crowd released a collective breath, some wiping tears from their eyes. They had witnessed a rare act of humanity in a place built on discipline and ritual. Liam's parents rushed forward, wrapping their arms around him in a hug. His mother whispered, her voice shaking, "You did it, Liam. You stood tall." His father smiled, his eyes glistening with pride. And the guard saw it too. That moment will stay with you forever. Liam sank to his knees briefly, exhausted but elated. His legs ached as never before, but he didn't care. He had made it. He had fulfilled the promise he had whispered years ago. The promise to himself that one day he would walk. One day he would stand tall in honor of those who served. The crowd began to clap quietly, some cheering softly, but Liam didn't notice them. His focus was entirely on the guard who had stepped aside, who had acknowledged his effort without words, without ceremony, simply with respect. That acknowledgement meant more than any applause or recognition. For the first time, Liam truly understood the meaning of honor. It wasn't about medals or ceremonies. It wasn't about following rules without question. It was about recognizing courage, commitment, and human strength. And in that moment he felt a connection with the soldier, a bond that went beyond uniforms, beyond age, beyond experience. His father helped him stand fully upright again. "Let's walk back together," he said. Liam nodded, taking one careful step after another. Each movement felt lighter now, not because his legs had grown stronger, but because his heart was full. As they walked slowly away from the tomb, the guard resumed his precise march, but there was a subtle change in his posture. For a brief instant he looked over at Liam and gave the smallest nod, an acknowledgement of a shared understanding. Liam's mother captured the moment on her camera, though she knew that the real memory could never be fully preserved in a photograph. This was a moment etched in their hearts, a story they would tell for years. The day a boy who had struggled to walk inspired a soldier to recognize bravery in a way no protocol could demand. The family continued along the cemetery path, their steps slow but steady. Liam felt a quiet pride settle inside him. He had faced years of struggle, pain, and doubt, and now he had reached the moment he had dreamed of for so long. He had stood tall not just in front of the tomb, but in front of the world and in front of himself. And though the ceremony continued around them, and though the soldiers marched in perfect rhythm, Liam knew something extraordinary had happened. For a brief moment, discipline had given way to compassion, rules had yielded to humanity, and a young boy's courage had been recognized in the most profound way possible. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long, soft shadows across Arlington National Cemetery. Liam's legs were sore, his braces heavy, and his heart still pounding from the effort it had taken to stand in front of the tomb of the unknown soldier. But even in his exhaustion, he felt lighter than he had ever felt before. For years he had dreamed of this moment, not for himself, but to honor the courage that he had witnessed in the soldiers who had inspired him. The tomb guard had returned to his precise march. Yet something about the rhythm was different. The silent acknowledgement had already passed between him and Liam, a recognition of determination and courage that needed no words. For Liam, this was a memory that would never fade, a moment when human compassion and bravery intertwined in the most extraordinary way. Tourists who had gathered quietly around the tomb now began to murmur softly. Cameras clicked, capturing the scene, but those images could never fully convey the emotion in the air. Liam's parents followed him closely, their eyes brimming with tears, their hearts swelling with pride. For them, this was a moment that symbolized not only their son's perseverance, but the enduring kindness of those who understand the value of courage. As Liam steadied himself against the railing, he looked up at the tomb guard once more. For a fleeting second, their eyes met again. In that brief glance, the soldier seemed to convey an unspoken message. That honor was not only about following rules, but about recognizing bravery when it appeared in unexpected forms. Liam felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of belonging and accomplishment that made all the pain and effort worthwhile. He straightened his back, standing as tall as he could, and felt a rush of quiet triumph. The years of therapy, the countless falls, the long hours of practice, they had all led to this moment. His mother reached over and gently squeezed his hand. "You've done something incredible," she whispered. "You've shown everyone what true courage looks like." Liam smiled, though his face was still flushed from effort. "I just walked," he said softly. "The guard did the hard part," his father chuckled quietly. "You don't understand. That moment you had with him, it's something people spend their whole lives hoping for. That was a salute, son, and it went beyond duty." Liam blinked, trying to understand the weight of his father's words. For years he had focused only on walking, on standing, on reaching the tomb. But now he realized it was about more than just him. It was about connection, recognition, and the unspoken bond that forms between those who honor courage in others. As they slowly walked away from the tomb, a few of the visitors approached Liam, offering quiet congratulations. Some shook his hand, others offered smiles of genuine respect. Each interaction filled him with a sense of pride, not arrogance, but a deep, humbling understanding of what it meant to persevere. Back at home, the moment lingered in every conversation. Liam spoke about the guard, about the ceremony, and about the strength it had taken to finally stand in front of the tomb. His parents listened quietly, knowing that the story was bigger than just him. It was about hope, resilience, and the extraordinary capacity for human beings to inspire one another. Over the next weeks, The video of the moment began to circulate online. A visitor had captured Liam's first independent steps toward the tomb, and the subtle act of the guard stepping aside. Millions watched, many moved to tears. Comments poured in, some recalling their own struggles, some expressing admiration for the courage of both the boy and the soldier. But Liam paid little attention to the attention online. What mattered to him was the memory, the feeling in his chest, and the understanding that sometimes true honor requires seeing beyond the rules. The guard himself received quiet recognition from his superiors. No reprimand was issued. Instead, his commanding officer later said, "Some rules are meant to honor the living as well as the fallen." That simple statement stayed with Liam as much as the guard's gesture had. Months turned into years, and Liam continued his journey of strength and recovery. The braces eventually became lighter, the steps steadier. He walked more confidently every day, but he never forgot that moment at Arlington, the day when discipline met compassion, and courage was honored in a way he had never imagined. He began speaking at schools and community events, sharing his story with others who faced challenges. He spoke about determination, hope, and the power of small, consistent effort. But he always made sure to include the lesson from the tomb guard, that true courage is recognized not just by what you do, but by how others respond to it. Through these talks, Liam inspired countless others, young and old, to persevere in the face of difficulties. He showed that even the smallest steps, when taken with heart, could lead to extraordinary achievements. And he reminded everyone that kindness, compassion, and recognition of courage were just as important as the rules and traditions we follow. Years later, Liam returned once more to Arlington. This time he walked confidently, without braces, accompanied by his family and a few close friends. The tomb guard who had stepped aside years ago had retired, but the story of his action had spread through the ranks. Many soldiers who now stood in his place had heard of the boy who took his first steps in front of the tomb, and they remembered him as a symbol of perseverance and hope. Liam stood before the tomb again, this time with quiet pride and a deep sense of fulfillment. He laid flowers gently, paying tribute not just to the unknown soldier, but to the guard who had recognized his courage, and to every person who had inspired him along the way. The crowd around him remained silent, honoring the moment. Liam felt the same calm, steady heartbeat of the cemetery that he had felt years ago. Yet now it resonated within him as though the courage and honor he had witnessed had become a part of him. Walking away, he turned for a final glance at the tomb. He whispered softly, "Thank you," not only to the soldiers who had stood guard, but to himself for the years of effort, determination, and belief that had carried him to this place. For Liam, the story was complete. Yet it was also a beginning, a reminder that courage could inspire, and that honor could be found not only in rituals or ceremonies but in acts of recognition, empathy, and heart, and for anyone who would witness the story in years to come. The lesson was clear. True bravery is not always about standing perfectly still. Sometimes it is about taking the hardest steps, refusing to give up, and inspiring others to see courage where it quietly shines.